Hello there. Well, today we're going to look at a campsite called Denny Wood, and we're going to look at a few things around that campsite which I think are interesting. Now, when I was a teenager, I only lived about 2.5 miles away from here, and we often used to cycle here. And just as you're going into the campsite, off to the left, there was a sand pit. It was fenced, and just about here there was a gate, and you could lean over that gate and you could watch sand martins nesting in the on the far side. It was quite a steep sandy cliff. There's still a little bit of fence around one part of it, but just on that cliff there, it's obviously smoothed out a bit, and it's not as steep as it was, and vegetation is all over the sides of it. There's a track through the middle which there didn't used to be, because there was it was in an enclosed area really. And there's what sand martins would have looked like. I do remember them and the sand beneath that vegetation is very similar to that. I believe sand martins have declined all over Britain, probably due to lack of insects. It seems to be the main problem. Also the lack of nesting sites like this one. Now, just above the sand pit there are two Bronze Age burial mounds, which are known as tumuli if there's two, and if there's one, it's a tumulus. Now, the view from here I think is quite splendid. You do have the road, but I think that view would be recognised by someone from the Bronze Age, whereas they wouldn't recognise the rest of our countryside. Now we'll make our way back to the campsite. It's quite a small campsite, and that's the only building. And it's a campsite, it's one of the two campsites that do not allow dogs, and it's because it's very close to some very important wetlands where birds would be breeding, and it certainly wouldn't be compatible with the surrounding areas. Now, this campsite really is just one big lawn, but it wasn't like that. Even in my lifetime, this was an ancient woodland. There was a lot of beech, and it was one of those woods that collapsed. And woods do collapse sometimes on the inside when they're very old, but you'll see later how it's starting to grow on the outside. The unenclosed woods of the New Forest, it's been recognised that they move, they sort of pulsate, if you like, over a long period of time. Bits will deteriorate and turn back to lawn like this. It hasn't probably been helped by the camping, but it's a natural process, and then the woods grow on different areas, and then eventually in time this would go back to woodland again. Now, here's an example where birch is colonising the edge of what was the woodland. Birch is often known as the pioneer tree. It can establish itself quite quickly. It doesn't live very long, but the birch will be replaced by oak in the fullness of time. We are talking hundreds of years. Now, before we leave this campsite, I just wanted to have a look at Church Place, which is a royal hunting lodge site. There's not an awful lot to see, but it's certainly worth having a look. It's just inside the enclosure through this gate, which is to the north of the campsite. Now, at this time of year, with the vegetation very much lower than it would be at any other time, you can see an eroded bank in a square, and I assume that there would be a fence on that, and the building would be in the middle perhaps. Some of the hunting lodge sites were obviously a bit more elaborate, and some of them had tiled roofs, and you can find little tiny scraps of tile. I think this one would have been made of wood and might have looked a little bit like this. It's only speculation, but still. Anyway, Here's a nice decay column, which is really very much a woodpecker's supermarket. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little video, found it interesting. If you did, please click a like and maybe subscribe. And by subscribing, you get reminded of another one when you go on YouTube. Goodbye for now.